Hi everyone, welcome to this Ask Dr. Lin episode where I will be taking a deep dive into the production of artisan breads. But before that, are you a growing artisan bakery with delivery and invoicing problems because your system can't seem to handle the returns or the waste? Well, I believe Cybake may have a solution for you. Cybake is a software application for managing bakeries. It processes your orders and manages your production, invoicing, deliveries, and actually quite a bit more. And right now, this software is really catching on with craft and artisan bakeries across America. The best part, they are cloud-based and can customize to your needs. To learn more, check out their website at cybake.com, cybake.com. So let's talk about artisan bread, industrial artisan bread production. Why? Well, while artisan bread is still pretty trendy to bake, I predict this trend scaling up in the next few years to the industrial level due to the perception of artisan bread being a cleaner and healthier bread to consume. But can you run a high output artisan bread line? I think you can, and here are some things to consider. I have covered some major concerns with this paper. It's now available in the Academy, so go download it today to make sure that all the tips I mentioned in this episode are at your fingertips. There isn't a legal definition on artisan bread, and while many people may disagree on what artisan bread is, these are basic characteristics found in artisan bread. Artisan bread are usually lean formulas made with just flour, water, yeast, and malt. There is very little of anything else, least to say the absence of dough improvers. Sourdoughs, Polish, biga, flour brew, sponge and dough are pre-ferments. They are usually the main part of the formula that provides the special aroma to the breads. Let's not discount pre-ferments as they do play a huge role in gluten hydration and the ease of processing these doughs. Artisanal scoring is an art, or is it a necessity? Well, the science behind it says that it is necessary to control that bursts from the oven spring. So let's be precise in this art form. Artisan bread is also baked directly on stones in tunnel ovens, so they are usually pan-free. This form of baking ensures the irregular look of artisan bread and results in a crusty exterior. The glossy crust of a typical artisan loaf is caused by a steam treatment. This is usually for about 15 to 30 seconds at the beginning of the tunnel oven. Great texture. There is a dual texture characteristic to artisan bread with a crunchy exterior and a chewy interior. This in fact causes a special mouthfeel that customers expect from artisan bread. The long fermentation and high hydration results in an open crumb with large holes that's distinctive of artisan bread. Artisan bread has strong aromatic flavors that is yeasty, sweet, fruity with sour and roasted tones. Well, it starts with the flour brew, sponge and dough, Polish or sourdough. This is also for whole grains or bran to soak. You may even start the sprouting process here. At the dough mixing stage, the rest of the flour and minors are mixed with the pre-ferments till the dough is fully developed. After which, a bulk fermentation happens. Sometimes as short as 1 hour, sometimes it's at refrigerated temperatures for overnight. Whatever you decide, this is important for the processing of the dough. The longer the ferment, the easier it is to run on a high-speed line. This is also the stage where the dough gets its flavors. Now, this next step of folding is important in the strength of the dough. This is done sometime in the middle to 2/3 of the way through the bulk fermentation time. Folding actually aligns the proteins and strengthens the dough, reinforcing the network in helping keep the gas bubbles intact. The more folds you give the dough at this stage, the stronger it will be, the better it would process. After folding, it goes into the next bulk fermentation again, which sometimes can range for 30 minutes to an hour. The shorter this period is, the better it would be for the dough to retain its strength in order to divide and shape well. Now, the next step in dividing and shaping requires low stress equipment. Remember that. Meaning, for a higher hydration dough like ciabatta type products, this part of the process is important in keeping the large bubbles intact. So do take note, you need special low stress equipment at this point, or you may just have to hand divide your doughs after all. After it is divided or shaped, it goes into a flour board or baguette pans, or sometimes on a couche before it's scored. Scoring and flour dusting is important and must remain consistent to control the burst of the bread. Baking is an important step as you drive out the moisture from the bread. It is important to know what's going on in the bread, and therefore I encourage you to learn more about thermal profiling. You can find more information on our thermal profiling on bakerpedia.com. Use thermal profiling as a tool to ensure that you are not excessively baking out the moisture from the bread. Cooling. After exiting the oven, artisan bread need to be properly cooled. Internal temperatures must be less than 43 degrees Celsius or 110 degrees Fahrenheit before you can slice or package. Many artisan bakeries let the bread cool on wire racks for hours before the packaging crew turns up. While convenient to work schedules, it is not optimal for the bread to be packed this way. Remember, bread should not cool on wire racks for more than 2 hours. Otherwise, it would dry out the bread and it will stale faster, thus increasing the returns of your bread. I would like to point out 6 critical points on artisan bread processing. Whether you use a yeast or sourdough pre-ferment, this part is the most important step in producing the characteristic flavor of the bread, and also provides it with some dough conditioning, reducing the total mixing time. The long fermentation before and after the folding step is needed to provide better flavor to the bread, help the dough mature, and provide the appearance of large bubbles in the dough. Remember, you've put a lot of effort into making those large holes in the crumb. Use gentle dough dividing and shaping to ensure that you keep those bubbles intact. Artisan breads all have some form of scoring to control the burst during the oven spring process. A nicely scored bread is the first thing people consider when they buy artisan bread. Steam treatment is needed at the first zone or the first 15 to 30 seconds of a batch oven. This ensures enough condensation of vapor to create that glossy and thick crust that is unique to artisan bread. Increase steaming for a thicker crust if you need. During the baking process, make sure you bake out the moisture in these high hydration breads. Use a thermal profiler to ensure that you do not go longer than 20% in the bakeout zone. many industrial bakers will look at the previous flowchart and start cutting down the fermentation steps. This is where it will start going wrong for you. Because cutting down fermentation would mean adding in more dough conditioners. If you do not understand the meaning of fermentation, which is really more than just gas production, check out my Ask Dr. Lin episode 9 where I deep dive into the benefits of fermentation. Now, fermentation is key to keeping a clean label for artisan bread. The less fermentation you provide your dough, the less mature it is for processing and the more dough conditioners you would have to add to the dough. This is why oxidizers like potassium bromate and ADA were used to chemically mature the dough and strengthen it, lowering the need for extended fermentation times. Want to keep your artisan bread label clean? Well, increase your fermentation time. Contrary to many artisan bread baking beliefs that artisan bread should go stale in 24 hours after it's baked, I believe that artisan bread, when baked correctly, can keep up to a week without staling. How can you accomplish this? Well, you can add oil to the formula. Maybe use up to 5% of the flour weight. This really helps reduce the starch retrogradation. Don't overbake the bread. Many bakers have been taught to look at the color of the bread, and while this may be a good practice for small bakeries, it is not sustainable in higher output bakeries due to the possibility of overbaking the bread. Use a thermal profiler like the Scorpion 2 or what I have here, the breadometer, to correct this issue by baking it to about 80% arrival or no less than that. Lastly, you can also look into an enzyme solution to delay the retrogradation of the starch to make the bread softer. It is a fact that we love to slice our artisan breads here in the US. Probably about the only people in the world that slice our artisan breads. Please understand that traditional bread slices for pan bread may not work as well for artisan breads due to the dual texture of artisan breads. The hard and crusty exterior with the soft and chewy interior may dull your slicer blades faster than you think. Therefore, before adding more emulsifiers or enzyme solutions to your artisan bread, you may just need to change out your blades more frequently. In addition, higher hydration breads needs a longer cooling time to get rid of its moisture. If you hasten the cooling process, you will dull your blades faster, making the bread stick more to the blades. One more thing, if slicing is a common problem for you, please make sure that you are using blades that are issued by the manufacturer. I've seen a huge difference in performance when this is done. Oh man, talking about artisan bread is really making me hungry. It's time I dig into my favorite loaf from Portland French Bakery. It is a whole wheat sourdough. Look at the nice open structure. And see the break and shred over here. It's my favorite. So, I guess this is the end of the episode. But before I go, I would like to thank SciBake for sponsoring this episode. What's SciBake? SciBake is a cloud-based, mobile, and easy-to-use bakery management software. Plus, you can pick and choose your modules, and only pay for the parts of the application that you need. To find out more, go check out the SciBake website at cybake.com and book a demo. All right, bakers, that's all for this episode. I'll see you next time.